Hi everyone, welcome. This is Lavender Sky Panther. It's Monday, May 9th, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Skies Above. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening May 2nd through the 5th, 2022, and this is show number 152. Now I am recording outside today, which means, one, I'm in beautiful fresh air, and I'm so grateful. But it also means we might hear lots of extraneous noises. So the birds are pretty active, there's barking, people yelling sometimes, planes, helicopters, you name it, all which are out of my control. So hopefully they're not too annoying, and if anything, they're amusing. I'm also going to try to fly through the show a little quicker than usual today because I have a tight window to record this. But anyway, let's jump into things. And as we do, I have a few cover slides. I wasn't sure which one to go with, so as always, sometimes I throw a few in for you to decide which one you like the best. This wonderful photo comes in from a friend of Lavender Sky Panther, actually, who will just say, will go by the name Anonymous. But I'm absolutely grateful for this photo coming in. Look at this incredible spectrum here on a cloak and craft, which becomes really evident later in the show. Also, just as a little teaser, spoiler, whatever you want to call it, at the very end of the show, I've got another lightning storm where we can see some pretty wild things happening and are, pretty conclusive in proving that it's not a natural lightning system. It's very artificial light. So anyway, we'll get to that at the very end. And in the meantime, here's the alternate cover slide. I wasn't sure if I should go with this one instead, but this is going to be, this is a little bit of that lightning storm I was talking about. And already at 8.1, you can see this looks like a cross-shaped cross pattern of cloak and craft with some cloaking material like flaring up in there. But again, we'll get into what's going on in this scene later on. Then this one I just found very intriguing because I was witnessing this with the naked eye, and we had a thing that is supposedly a cloud, but it's definitely a cloak and craft when we get into it later. And this also might be a cloak and craft down here, and there was just a little rainbow going between the two. It was very odd. It felt very weird. It felt okay, but it was just very interesting. I've never seen something quite like that. All right, so now this is the Words, Wisdom, and Spirit of the Day page. I'm not going to get too deep into anything today. Just want to say it's a little message from a nocturnal frog, and who was actually, I guess, it was looking straight ahead. And then as soon as I brought the camera out, I was just observing him. And then when I brought the camera out, it just turned and looked at me like as if to say cheese and take the picture. So I'm just putting the little message here saying, go ahead, take my picture. It does last longer. So I don't know wherever you're from in the world, but when I was growing up, people would use that as a little comeback remark if someone was staring at somebody too long or being a little bit obnoxious about it. People would say, go ahead, take my picture, it lasts longer. So it just reminded me of this a little bit. Little tongue-in-cheek kind of little phrase for the day. All right, so let's get into the show. Now I am photographing the skies around Miami once again. If you're new, whether you're new or returning to this channel, thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciate you stopping by in on the channel for however long you can. Hopefully you can stick around for the whole show. I do cover what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it in previous shows. This is number 152, so if you're new, do have a look at some of those, and otherwise, if you're returning, you know the drill. So I am just going to get into it. What I will mention, though, and forgive me, my people that come back, thank you for being here once again. For anybody who's new, when I say original photo, that's pretty self-evident, but I'm going to get into something when I say enhanced photo, and they'll be labeled. It's just when I take the original photo and I edit attributes of it, such as color, saturation, contrast, and brightness. That's pretty much it. Sometimes I toy with the levels up or down on the color temperature as well. And that's just to draw out and pull out specific things in a photo. So when I see something and observe the skies, and again, this case is going to be around Miami, Florida, around town, wherever I'm at, day or night, just something strikes me as odd in the sky, I'm going to photograph it, and I'm going to break it down and analyze it. So in this case, I was actually driving. When we look at D, I already see the imprint of a triangle going on down here. I see weird texture, like 4 little chambers with a cross here, something else with texture happening over here. There was enough going on in this overall scene that merited doing this, which is running some enhancement on it. Now, when I got the enhancement, I'm looking at the color signatures. We follow this line. We've got something kind of hooking around here, something going off at a different angle. We have something, showing up in yellow with parallel lines to it, while we have something running near perpendicular to it. And again, when I see all these strong geometries in the sky, we know that's not natural cloud systems, because in this area of the world, it is only ever, it used to be anyway for decades past of my growing up in this area, living in this area for a long time. I've also lived around the world, come back. But we always just had big, puffy cumulus clouds that moved predictably across the sky, pretty even and straight. Or we would have maybe some stratocirrus or cirrus clouds, kind of like thinner ones, but nothing like this. We've got movement going all over the place. And especially look down at D.1 where I saw that triangular form. Look at, we see these hard edges and it's symmetrical, so we know there's intelligent design involved. Then we even have what looks like an object sitting right in the middle of that. So as I've mentioned on other shows, is this just some kind of imprint or an actual cloaking craft? Or is that even a portal where something can move in and out when we see this rigid geometry? The answer is it could be all of the above. It just depends on what scene we're looking at, and it could be even many other answers beyond what I can come up with. What I will say is there's enough atmospheric disturbance happening here locally to tell me there's got to be cloaking craft up in here, and that's a byproduct, that disturbance, the agitated, sky like this, is either a byproduct of how the craft itself powers itself, or it's like electromagnetic waves sent out intentionally to disturb the atmosphere to cloak things, or it could even just be a function of how hot the craft is, and it makes like these vapor things to create this disturbance, or again, all of the above. But the more you look at this photo, the more you're going to find in it. So I will leave this up to you guys and girls and whoever's to take a look at this a little more in your own time and see what you can see. Like already here, I see a long straight edge here with a curved, this looks very machine-like. Like it could be the front of a craft or the back, like exhaust area of it. Hard to say, but it definitely looks like machinery to me. And then we see other little curious things happening all over this scene. So see what you can see. And if you have any interesting angles, whether they're based on any kind of logic or just pure fantastical fun, let me know in the comment section below if you like. All right, so now this is a similar scene, just taken from a different area of town, that kind of similar overall, whatever we want to call it, installation. So we look to the right at the enhanced version. Here I took out all the color because we're so used to seeing a sky as more or less a blue sky. When I remove the color, sometimes it helps the eye to brain connection see things in a different way. So already look at 8.1, we start to see some very interesting things with contour emerging out of here. Again, we've got that straight line coming down and then something coming perpendicular to it that doesn't not happen. And here, look, this one's parallel to this one. That does not happen in a natural cloud system. So I'm going to say, obviously, there's absolutely something with intelligent design going on, something engineered back in here that's in heavy cloak. Now, when I say strange cloud activity in quotes down here in all the little titles, that's just referring to me calling cloud in quotes suspected cloaking craft. And also the cloaking material itself I'm going to refer to as plasma. That's my go-to. Just referring to something heavier and denser than water vapor that can stick around and hang around the atmosphere long and also cloak something really well. So if it is that exactly, I can't tell you. I can't go up and measure it, but that's just going to be my term of reference for right now. And why not? It very well could be. All right, now here's another scene. This had some very rigid structure with parallel lines coming down an angle perpendicular to another straight line. So again, that tells me something of intelligence is happening in the sky. And when we put some enhancement on it, you can just see some kind of more rigid structure and then a whole lot of other stuff going on in this scene. When we look at the different color signatures, once again, I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but I see like darker elliptical objects kind of floating in the background. And of course, there's so much thick particulate in any given sky these days with intention, a lot of smoke and mirrors, artificial means are generating this particulate up there. So we can't see things like this. And that does help really cloak craft up in the sky. All right, we're going to zoom in one more time on that rigid structure, which I'm just going to call a rigid structure, because again, we have like ribs that are parallel coming down an angle perpendicular to another one, like a ridge. And here we even have like a little periscope pipe element like sticking out, very odd and curious. And then we look here and we have a straight line. It looks like texture happening at the end of this thing. So as I always say, I would love to see the skies without all this like cloaking and particulate, just so we could really see the kind of craft that are up there. And maybe that day is coming, and maybe we need to watch what we wish for. But I think let's stop hiding and sneaking around. Let's see what's really going on. since we're already, if you look at any of my previous shows, detecting a lot of cloak and craft with actual machine parts popping out. Now, some of my shows are going to show that more clear and obvious than others. A really good example is an off-filled sunset, one of the shows a while back, or Cloud Cruiser that shows a cloak and craft with parts you can point to. I have a lot of shows where you might see some of these things. Anyway, let's keep going. If I can get my cursor to do it. Hang on one second. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so now another strange cloud activity. This is looking northeast. And actually, strike that. It's looking west. I didn't update all of my little tabs down here, so forgive me if I missed some. But anyway, this is looking west. And what was really curious, not only was the quality and the character, let's just say, of this quote-unquote sun, which had a very artificial feel to it. Again, look at my previous shows and other Earth and Sky watching channels out there, and look at about the concept, if you're not familiar with it, of the artificial sun or the solar simulator. Patents pulled for it in the 1960s that we know of, probably even before that, it was out there, the technology. But anyway, take a look into there if you're not familiar. Otherwise, you know where I'm going with this. But anyway, not only did that not even look like the sun, but look at this strange thing emanating out of that pinhole. And then this starts to have some form to it, like an equilateral triangle or triangle at any rate, with rounded corners or rounded points, with like a raised, like a dome in the center of it. Really bizarre stuff. And then we get into some strange texture. Sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking today. Strange texture happening all over the place. And then over here too, it looks like something's trying to form, or there's a truncated triangle independent of whatever's happening down here. So of course, it's worthy of doing the enhancement. And here we go. Look at C.1. We're going to zoom in on that whole thing because it gets really interesting. Other things are very interesting in here too, but I'm, for time's sake, going to have to leave it to you to take a look on your own time, see what else you can see. But here we go. We're looking at this, blowing out kind of the brightness on it first, just to see if we can see anything else happening in here, anything lurking and looming on in behind the shadows. Look, already we see these interesting things coming in on the scene. These look regular, like in shape, kind of elliptical. Looks definitely like something has structure to it. So I'm not sure if this is all one big cloak and craft happening in there or several different pieces. Sometimes it's hard to tell. See what you think. But this is still starting to get very interesting. And look how this is a warm tone with this darker violet indigo ring happening around it of sorts. So then we're going to zoom in on this again and look at this. Look at that. It's like a triangular form with something going on in there. And look what's going on around the outside of this thing, around the rim. Very weird. See what you think is going on. Is this something flying out of a portal? Or is this just coincidentally sitting here and something else is emerging? It's very fascinating. What do you think is going on in that story? Okay, now we're going to look east, and this, mind you, is all very low in the sky. That's very atypical. Again, I've lived on this planet for many decades, and I've never seen systems dipping down so low into the area. And so in this case, what struck me as odd is this really straight line, very rigid, not cloud-like whatsoever, not natural cloud-like anyway. And then I start to see the outline, or like an imprint of another triangle with another one echoing beyond it. So let's look at it with enhancement. Maybe you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. Look at this straight line, and we've got these echoing triangles. Something else is happening in here. And as I always say, I am narrating this show on a laptop screen, and which is a fairly bigger, scale than obviously a handheld device or like a thumbnail. So when I'm going over this, I am sure to miss really probably eye-opening insights that maybe some of you might be looking at if you're looking at the smaller scale screen or more toward a thumbnail size. So I do recommend, if you are fortunate enough to have a bigger screen plus a smaller screen, if you can run the show concurrently and hold one over the other and just toggle your view up and down between the two different scales, you might start to see different things happening. Also, I invite you always, you can mute this entire show, and for fun, go through and pick out what you find even without hearing what I have to say. I have no problems with that. All right, so now we're going to zoom in on that triangular area and look at this. Clearly there's something with a rigid design to it and some symmetry. And I'm not sure what's trailing in and out nor what this big piece is here, but that's definitely some type of structure. And then we have the echoing triangle happening beyond. So again, very intriguing. See what you think with that scene. Now this was just bizarre. Okay, looking to the west, we have a cloud kind of straight and flat here. And then we have something kind of pitching up an angle. We have this starting to flare up out of nowhere. That's not natural cumulus cloud activity at all. And then this thing is banking down an angle. So all of this was enough to tell me we've got some type of cloak and craft activity going on, plus whatever's happening at D. It looks really weird. So we put it with enhancement. I'm not going to spend too much time, but look look at the clarity of D. Just very sharp lines here of whatever that is. I believe that's like a piece or a tower of a piece of equipment attached to the deck of another craft here, because I see at the edge here like a machine part popping out in here as well. See what you can see though. I'm not going to even cover what the heck is going on up in here. Partly one, because I don't really understand what's going on there. But if I had to wager, which I'm not a wagering person, I would say there's some type of cloak and craft in here and maybe something launching up off of it. But see what you find in there. Okay, this one also just was really intriguing, looking up toward the northeast, northeast. It was just like weird cloud, you know, with like backlit with a weird luminosity, also like a darker object looking like a triangle projecting out of it. So of course we run the enhancement. Now I didn't get at what that object is back there, suspected object, but we do see that none of this looks natural. Like, you know, something is happening in here. We get these bursts of white light. And then look at this darker rectangular, this darker triangular object, and something else happening down here. All very bizarre, especially when you take into account the greenish color signature, which I rarely get, and these orange rusts and golds and like bursts of white. Very atypical for what I normally see, especially when looking north or northeast or even northwest towards 6 p.m. Okay, now again, you know what? This one is looking northwest. Okay, instead of northeast. Anyhow, look at this. This kind of clearing and opening in the sky was very weird, multi-textured. You know, it's got dimension to it, like stepped. You know, just this cloud activity is kind of stepped back in tiers. T-I-E-R-S. Very strange looking. And then again, something strange going on up here. So we look to the right at the enhanced version. And I see something with structure up here at B.1, very rigid edge, you know, hard line. And then something is going on here. This looks like to me like what do I want to say? It's like a truncated triangular form with like a handle on it. It's really strange, kind of like a, not a shovel, but like I think it's like a trowel is a tool. And anyway, it looks really strange. So this triangular component and this other piece I'm just going to call like a handle. Then we also have a triangular form here. And then again, this just doesn't even line up or match whatever's going on down here. Very, very strange. Little bits and pieces of things going on in here too. It has a very otherworldly, other dimension, kind of interdimensional quality to it. But see what you see in that scene. Here we're just going to look at it, zooming in on this thing. There's like a path cut, like a swath cut through here or something. And again, here's this little piece. This is doing its own thing, just really ethereal looking. And then actually up at E.1, there's two circles popping up right here with a little membrane between them. So to me, that's a machine part right there. It's part of a craft that we're seeing pop out, you know, with a clearing. So I would suspect that there's a bigger craft happening back in here. And maybe that's a way that it can, like a periscope can see out, or it's some type of exhaust portal. Who knows? See what you think is going on in there. Okay, then we're going to go back up and just to the general disturbance of the sky. I know this says northeast. I didn't update all of these. This is actually looking north and up. So we look to the right at the enhanced version, and look at this. These almost look like clawed fingers curling up toward us in view. Some weird kind of structure. Look at these. These are all parallel like ribs. So there's definitely something with structure and intelligence. Now, I always say intelligent design, but you know, it doesn't always mean like it's a metallic or kind of hard craft that you could knock on. It could also be some type of organism, bioorganism up there in the sky. I'm totally open to that after some of the stuff I've been seeing this year. Anyway, C.1, there's also some kind of strange form with rigidity to it, and it looks more in the manner of kind of a bioorganism. Some hard metallic type craft can also emulate some type of organism or bioorganism. So, you know, again, without seeing this, without all the smoke and mirrors, it's hard to say what's going on. Also, look at this thing looming up here in the upper left-hand corner. And look at the bursts of light once again. These would not happen just in the north, you know, looking to the north in the sky at this hour of day. Okay, this gets really interesting. Again, sorry, we're looking northwest. But look at, we've got a big triangular imprint with another triangular thing echoing above. So we look at with enhancement to the right, and I'm not going to be able to get it too much other than I can tell you, look at C.1. That's like a pipe. That's a very rigid machine part with something crossing like almost like a hilt toward the bottom of it. And this is all very rigid. It's very it's a lot of disturbance, but it has a lot of hard edges sticking out of it. So I gotta say, there's cloak and craft that's emerging onto the scene. See what you think. Now we're gonna zoom in on one of those. Actually, I'm gonna go back. We're gonna zoom in. If you follow my cursor down here towards C, okay, down in this scene, we're gonna look at this circular element at C and this other more linear one. So when we zoom in, here's that more elliptical element and a more linear one. Just very odd in general. We start to see like three holes side by side by side. So I'm going to put some enhancement. You can see them a little bit better here. They look like the ends of cylinders, and that is a very clear elliptical shape. So I'm going to call that absolutely some type of cloak and craft or instrumentation or something. This is looking very strange at B.1 and C.1. So these are the types of things that they look too well formed to be haphazard cloud. They have rigid elements to them. So these are either like organisms up in the sky or craft emulating organisms. Or, this is like a piece that's like attached to another craft below. Hard to say what's going on there. Now we're going to zoom in on that element one more time, that elliptical one with the like circular elements. Looks like it's absolutely some type of rigid structure with the plasma wafting in front of it. See what you see in that scene. Okay, then we're going to take a look again, just another view of it, because everything happening around it is very intriguing as well. And we put that enhancement. Look what we see now. We absolutely see that this is plasma floating in front of it or something like that. And then look at, we've got this darker object cloaking back here as well with a very like stick-like thing protruding off the top of it. And this, it just all looks so strange and nothing like natural cloud activity. See what you think is going on. All right, here we get into our little intriguing scene here. I'm just going to kind of jump over to the right. We have one quote-unquote cloud over another quote-unquote cloud, both right next to each other, but totally different in character. They're in the similar altitude and shouldn't look vastly different. That's one telltale sign that something strange is going on. Then we have this partial rainbow just going between these two. I'm just going to call them entities or items because they're not clouds. This is looks nothing like any natural cloud I've ever seen in the entire world, and nor this one. And we look at the color signatures. We've got 8.1. We've got a strong triangular form happening up here. So it's clear there's something more than meets the eye going on in the scene. We also got a very ethereal looking light, a washout of it, to show too there's some type of interesting either ET, interdimensional, or even supernatural activity going on in this scene. See what you see there. And we're going to just zoom in. Now here's without the rainbow there anymore. And then we're going to look really at B. Look to the right, B.1. Something very interesting is happening with this so-called cloud. Also, we see with the color signature, there's kind of like a vapor trail happening off of this thing. That's why I also think this is absolutely some type of cloak and craft. Then we look at 8.1. We got a hole here, and like a cross shape here, which shows there's organization, there's intelligent design going on with this thing. I couldn't get at too much more what was going on down at sea, but there was enough going on in this scene to, trip my little alert meter that we're dealing with cloak and craft. Now we're going to look to the west. We have this kind of definite shape, with an edge here. Is it some kind of trapezoid? I don't know. Another shape here, an imprint with stuff coming off of it. So definitely we want to check that out with enhancement. And look at our color signatures. Look how blue this is beyond in these two distinct shapes, which are not even at angle, they're off angle to each other. Or even if this is one big shape and this is just like stuff coming in between, it's still one big imprint that, needs explanation of what's going on. I see little bits and pieces that look like they could be machine parts popping out. It's just a big enigma here. And look at the warm tones happening all around the perimeter. And this just stays blue. So I'm not sure what's happening. Maybe you can find something in there that I don't see. All right, now we're going to look west. This is over a parking lot out and about in the town. And it was a gorgeous looking sunset, but a lot of different, look at these streaks coming in, swooshing in from a totally different texture and darker cloud happening. Then we get this beautiful soft rose color happening in here, salmon color, gold. We have some distinct shapes parallel to each other, something coming in on a different angle. once again, there's enough to tell me there's something going on in this scene, and I'm going to leave this one for you guys to further analyze. But again, look at these streaks coming in, almost like an overlay of different dimensions. And then we're going to zoom in on this area too to see what's going on. Something very rigid happening at B as well. There's a lot happening. And not to mention, we've got this very dark, overall cloud assembly extremely low in the sky. So there could be tons of stuff cloaking in here as well. Look at the profile of this. This is not a normal cumulus cloud, not by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, now we're going to flip around and look to the south. And then also something very wisp-like and strange was going on right next to the scene we were just looking at. And then we look to the right, and we can see absolutely 8.1, a triangular form. And other weird stuff happening in another triangular form. I'm going to call that cloaking craft. Plus, a big mystery. I have no idea what's going on here. How come we have like plum, raspberry, reds happening right here, and then a burst of white? This is not even looking west. And then white here, but then the reds again. What is going on? To me, that's attributed to Cloak and Craft Local with all different kind of heat signatures or power source signatures. See what you think, though. Okay, now we're going to go back to the west, and that's where we had this scene where I said I saw these like parallel things sitting next to each other. Maybe this is one thing, and we're just seeing like a divide or like a rift through it, and then this is coming off on a different angle to everything else. Again, just very, very odd. When we put enhancement on it, again, I see that this has got to be Cloak and Craft, or a craft with a little companion buddy, or something attached on top of its deck. And again, we've got A's coming up this way. Something looks like it's diving into here. Very interesting, and a very, very interesting texture and color signature pops up here in the upper right-hand corner. Now we're going to look to the south, and then look at this. This is actually more southwest, sorry. But look at the shape of this thing. Look at this. And then these like weird kind of fringe, disintegrated, kind of fringe-like artificial cloud happening here. Then we have at D, there's something diving straight up and down. At C, we see the forming of a perfect triangular form, ghosted. So this is obviously artificial stuff all over the place. Something's moving down this way, something's coming up here. What the heck is this? A and B are not natural cloud forms. And again, they're very low in the sky. So with enhancement, we can see it all a little bit better. And look at this. What's going on in here? We get like a fiery reddish salmon burst of color over here, while everything else is gold below. It's very, very odd. And then we get some red pinks up in here. So what do you see in here? I see Cloak and Craft, like this is like the sticking out like the bow of a ship or something, with something else protruding and flying off of it. To me, this is absolutely an independent little craft flying out of whatever this thing is. But see what you see. We're going to zoom in a little more because I found this really intriguing at D.2. It looks almost like a fiery furnace powering this craft, and that's the top of the bow of a boat or something, of a ship. And then something happening here, and again, this is, to me, an independent craft, flying off of that. And then look at C.2. Definitely looks like it has mass. Is that a little craft, like a one-man, one-person craft? Or is it some kind of sensor or instrumentation? Almost like a little drone sent out by this thing? I don't know. See what you think it is. All right, then we're going to look to the west, and what caught my attention was this cross-like form at A. It's like very much a distinct cross, like a chunky, almost like a Celtic one. And then we get a straight line across, and then we get these coming on angles. So again, no way is that natural cloud formation. And it's all choppy in what I call the staccato cloud effect, really choppy and fuzzy, even a little blurry, even to the naked eye. And when I see that kind of activity, I just call it staccato. It's, a musical term. But it just, it happens local, and to me that means there's some type of Cloak and Craft generating electromagnetic wave activity or other kinds of frequencies to make this all disturbed. And look how strange this is, this whiter element popping up with texture, and this line coming across. Maybe this is a part of a bigger shape. Anyway, very bizarre. I still can't explain what that cross-like thing is, other than we've got to have Cloak and Craft riddled all over in that scene. Okay, now we're going to get away from that area, go to another part of town. Now we're looking north toward 8:20 in the afternoon, toward the evening. And look at this big wedge-shaped thing just erupting straight up out of a very low altitude. And it's not a tornado, just very bizarre, and it even has a reddish-pink signature to it. This was just truly, truly bizarre. And then when you look at 8.1, we have a darker form swooping in behind it. And then look at B.1, it's like these legs, straight line coming out behind whatever's going on here too. Just really, really bizarre. Okay, now we're still going to see more bizarre stuff. And actually, this is looking partly west toward the north. So sorry, it's a little hard to, it's on an angle. But down toward the left is going toward the south, west. And as we come up toward this way, toward the top, it's moving toward the north. So anyway, I just saw this big long streak, through the sky with texture to it. We look to the right and we see it's got a reddish pink color signature. So very an enigma in and of itself. Again, a mystery. What is going on in here? Now, some say that could be the tail. Maybe I just missed seeing what they call, what are they calling it these days? A lot of different objects passing through the sky that could be like the tail of it, that we're just seeing kind of the smoke trail. Or it could just be something else. Again, hard to say. Say what you think. But here we go. This is a panorama, the original view, and then the enhanced version's up above. It's kind of got a fishbowl effect, fisheye, because I just did a quick panorama, so it's distorted. But this would be looking to the north to the right and the south to the left. But we just see this continuous path of what I was just telling you about. And in the upper enhanced version, you see the red signature here. So do have a look, too, in my description box below at what could be causing this red-pink color signature. Lots of weird little things in here. Look at this brighter white burst of something happening in here. Looks like it has a design, a shape to it. And then we get that, burst of white while everything else around it is all different colors. So it's just very strange. Then we're going to look to the west, talking about very strange. This looks like it has like a multi-layer effect. So I've only seen this a few times. It really feels interdimensional. Because here we have like a pointed ellipse, if you follow my cursor, happening beyond, and then echoing lines, like something's like diving down in behind this cloud, like a smoky tracings, forming those shapes. And then we have a darker mass that just never happens in the western sky here. And look how strange the sun looks. I even saw a lot of people as I was driving around in different corners looking at the sun because the sky commanded it. It felt very strange, and people were looking up and noticing this. Now here we go with enhancement. Looks like some big object is diving down into the scene or emerging up out of these clouds, hard to say. We have a triangular form next to what is supposed to be the sun. This is just bizarre every which way you look at it. So I will leave this to you to look more in your own time. We're going to zoom in on the quote-unquote sun. That can't be the real sun for many reasons. Also, there's a little weird orb-like phenomenon. I don't think that was a lens flare. I looked at the photos before and after, and it kind of traveled. Doesn't mean that it isn't, but I don't think it was. But anyway, you can look at these photos and see what you think too. Especially when we look here, it's not behaving like a lens flare, but again, I can't tell you conclusively. It's just my feeling on this one. And then look at some of the color signatures around what's supposed to be the sun, which I'm going to say is not. And look at right here. Interesting at B.1. It's almost like a bent spoon, and this is the bigger part of the spoon, and that's the handle. But what is this weird squiggle stuff and this straight curving line? And then we have this shape, elliptical shape, and look how symmetrical this piece is as it leads in, or it's like it's pouring like molten stuff out. I don't know, it's very, really bizarre. And see, weird texture and things going on here as well, and like another kind of thing, cord-like thing curving around. I don't know. This thing is truly bizarre, especially when you look at the color signatures of the red kind of glowing out through this thing. Then we have this coming along here, here, and here. These are kind of parallel elements. So I don't know what's going on here, but that's one hell of a story. See what you think is going on. Now we're going to look at another view back here. Now this time to the right, the enhanced version, I removed all color again just to look at it in a different way. And look at, we definitely have some type of truncated or triangular form happening there. And see what else you can find in that one. Okay, now this was really, really fascinating looking to the west. And this ties in with the cover that was so wonderfully sent in by a friend of Lavender Sky Panther, who will go by Anonymous. But I caught the same thing that they caught, except I caught it at a moment where I could see all the spectrum and rainbow activity, but it wasn't as clear as the one provided by Anonymous. So you'll see in a minute. So I noticed this disc-like thing, unbeknownst to me, somebody else in a similar part of the town, Anonymous, caught that other photo. So they caught this like disc-like thing on the top of the profile of the cloud. And I saw it, but I did see a spectrum, but not as vivid as what I got sent in later. But then we have what's supposed to be the sun, and we have a lot of weird color and activity going on in the sky around it. So here's with the enhancement you really see. Look at this. C.1 really jumps out. That's its own little object, and there's a darker thing emerging from behind it. And then we have what's supposed to be the sun and this dark thing diving in. And then we got this, burst of whiter light, plus the cyan, very ethereal feel, this kind of milky film-like feel to what's going on over here. It was just really, truly bizarre. So I'm zooming in on that disc-like thing, which had like a rainbow spectrum trail behind it. So when you look at the cover, I believe that that's this whole element, that elliptical element on the cover. And then at the time that I got to glimpse this, I was seeing a little bit more. So a harder edge emerged, plus a very dark sliver of something. And we're going to check it out. And look how bizarre this quote-unquote sun is behaving. Now I'm zooming in more in that disc-like shape because now we're getting a little bit more better look at that little other darker sliver coming up on top of this light while we have the spectrum trailing behind it. This thing was absolutely fascinating. And then it grew, so that darker thing started emerging a little bit more, kind of like that little foot or muscle of a conch shell coming out. It started to come out a little bit more, and so I could see a little bit more of what was going on. I still don't get anything too concrete other than we've got this burst of white disk and then darkness and then spectrum. And then something going on here gets very interesting too. So we're going to look at it again. Now it was starting to kind of like fade and dive down in a weird way. But then we had this very rigid structure popping up over right next to it. And then this thing is actually a symmetrical piece as well. So things just got weirder and weirder, and with really good enhancement. Look at this. We have an absolute structure here over at D and at E, while we have this like rainbow, I'm going to call it a cloak and craft, rainbow type craft going on at C.7. Now we're going to go I'm going to isolate elements D and E and zoom in and see if we can see anything better. Look at D.2. This is absolutely rigid structure, so I'm calling it that's some type of parts and pieces of some type of cloak and craft. And then over on the other side, we have this very symmetrical thing, very curved element. Looks like, holes punched out of something. And then just really weird character, like we got a pure white element, but yet we have this rainbow thing going on in the background. See what you can see in this scene. And then we're going to go to the very kind submission here by Anonymous, and look at this. So they caught an absolute great view of this. I did see it when I was driving, but I couldn't pull over in time to catch it. But they caught it beautifully. And so here it is with enhancement, just so we can really see it better. But to be honest, you could see it just like this. So it was very clear to the naked eye. And then we're going to zoom in again, and what gets really interesting is right here. Look at, we have like a hole, and it looks like some type of end of a machine part here. And we're going to zoom in again, and with even more contrast to see what is this little thing. And then this too, this little squiggle. It's very rigid. It looks like some kind of hook. I don't know. Again, I'm open to things being bioorganisms or organisms up in the sky as well these days. But anyway, what is this thing? And I'm just going to leave that for you to come up with some good ideas. And then look at this rainbow craft, I'm going to call it. And then we have some other kind of different movement coming in that's a little bit whiter, like a grayish color. Very strange, whatever is going on in there. We're going to zoom in one more time. I think this is the last time. So 8.4, this is like an elliptical form coming in on this other quote-unquote rainbow craft. And then again, we got a perfect circle, some kind of piece, something's happening there. And even here, we got a rigid piece coming across. And what the heck is this thing over here? Again, I may not have answers, but I'm posing the question. See what you find in that scene. Okay, now looking over still to the west, a little bit after what we just saw, we get these white beams coming out, and then over here as well. The whole overall scene was just really bizarre, especially now when we put enhancement on it. We see there's two direct beams and maybe a third. That just is not normal sunset behavior whatsoever. And then we look at the this. It gets really weird too, because this is no natural cloud activity. We've got things banking off this way and bending, and it's shooting up this way and fanning out this way, while this thing is its own little funnel or like wedge-shaped cloud popping up out of nowhere. And so with enhancement, Look at this. This looks like a tube that's like I got an elbow bend, like some kind of macaroni noodle piece with a hole at the end. And again, what the heck is going on all over the place? Especially when you look at the color signature, where this looks like something's coming in here. It has a whiter burst of color, or void of color, you know, like a whiter burst. And we've got all this gold and rust activity happening. See what you think is going on in there. We're going to zoom in again. Here's that little noodle piece, I'm calling it. And then something absolutely is happening here at the center. It looks like this thing, you know, is just like whooshed in a triangular shaped craft. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if that's a whole of a bigger craft surrounding it, or that's the craft itself. Or actually this whole thing, if you follow my cursor, that could be the front of the craft. This is the body, and this is like a tail, like it's swooping in and diving down, almost like a bird if you had a head here. We even have like two holes here. So actually, the more I look at it, let me rephrase this. I think that's like a wing, and this is a wing. If you follow my cursor, a wing here and a wing over here. That could be like the command deck right here, and that's like the tail of the craft swooping in down this way. I think that's what we're seeing. See what you think, though. All right, now comes the fun part of the thunder, or actually sorry, there was no thunder. The quote-unquote lightning activity that I was seeing was happening extremely low in the sky, fairly almost overhead from where I was. And this is looking east-northeast in the sky around 11 o'clock. Now, like some of my other shows, and I always screw up the title, but it was like Lightning Show, Epic Backyard Nightcraft Sky Battle. That show, this reminded me of it, because in that show I was observing a storm that looked like a lightning storm, but it felt like very artificial light. There were no bolts and no thunder, and it just went on and on for like over an hour and a half. In this case, this thing was going on for about an hour. And again, it just felt extremely artificial, and the way the sky illuminated and everything did not feel like real lightning. No bolts came down like they usually do in this part of the world, and it was all very strange. So I'm flagging A, B, and C, because we have a weird cross-like element coming in on the scene. This whole thing is acting really weird. We have a triangular form up here. What the heck is this? No clouds do this right in here in the center. And then we're going to look at some other elements as well. So this is when the sky already started flashing. So it's just a big bright white out beyond, like someone just, you know, hit a switch and it was one big LED light. Again, it had nothing to do with natural, you know, forming or colors of lightning. I've lived in this area long enough to know what that looks like. This was not it. Now, here's with some enhancement, and look at this. We have this cross-like shape with some plasma kind of wafting in front of it. And what the heck is this darker shape? Nothing bends like that, like an elbow or a knee. There is no natural cloud that will do that. So what are we looking at? And what is this stuff? You know, it's all two parallel to each other, stacked up neatly. So I'm going to say there is cloak and craft and this, you know, going on all over the place. And the flashes are evidence of battle that's going on up there. And so now we see a warmer tone. I'm just looking at it a slightly different way where you can really see that cross-like form again. And then I'm just blowing out some of the attributes on this just to kind of get at and highlight, maybe see things in a different way. And I really wanted to see what's going on at 8.3, and I think we can pick it out a little bit better that it's got rigid structure to it. But anyway, see what you can see in this scene. And then this is a little fuzzy, my apologies, but it's when the whole sky flashed. I caught it frame by frame at the moment that it was illuminating the whole sky. And now we start to look at these two elements, and even this third one down here. Look at this rounded form. These have to be independent craft. God knows what else is going on all around. And D.12, we start to see some shadows. So this is absolutely some kind of craft going on in here. But man, again, I would love to just be able to see this with the naked eye, with no cloaking, to see what the heck was I really observing in that sky. Now here is a little sequential thing. So we've got left, middle, and right are three different frames. So just looking to the left, that's what the sky looks like with no flashing. Then the sky started flashing. Now that's no lightning. That's not the effect of any lightning as it starts to illuminate. And then look to the right. That's all even, like somebody just flashed a studio light, like in a theater background. There's no lightning bolts, just the whole thing illuminated. So now we're going to look at these three scenes with enhancement leads to this. So actually I'm going to go back one. Actually, if you look where my cursor is in the center panel here, we're going to look at this with enhancement because these started to look at 8.1 like rigid structure, also at B. And then we go here, And we can see a little bit more. I don't know what I'm looking at though, but I can tell you these are some kind of objects poking up out of the scene. Now, look at the top is the original. We're looking on top of a palm tree, and things started to kind of light up a little, you know. And so now here's with enhancement of that scene. And look at, we get absolutely some kind of object here. This is like curving around. What the heck is this thing at C.1? Is that like some kind of organism, or is that part of a ship? I don't know, but no way would a cloud go straight up vertical, and no way would something kind of fly in this way and then like hook around this way in a natural cloud system. And again, look how low this is in the sky. It's just crazy. Now, we're going to look this side by side. So the left is before anything flashed, and to the right, look at, we just get a flash here, here, and here. So lightning does not behave that way. And also D.1 is starting to look like a rigid structure, even like the end of a pipe happening here. So we're going to look at that with enhancement to the right here. And lightning does not behave like this, unlike three bright balls, nor do, it start to illuminate something that's a pure oval over here. It looks like, again, like the end of a pipe at C.2. And then we get a little hint of something going on at A.2. Lightning does not look like this. That's why I'm saying we're dealing with some type of craft up there, and the flashes were some kind of battle or them signaling each other. I don't know. But something not of this world, let's just say, not of our natural clouds that we've known in the decades past. Now here's another panel, side by side by side. So A is where you're just looking at the sky. B is when something started to flash. And then C, it's starting a little bit more to form. But like B, we have like a point of light here. And then at C, it transfers up to the top. So that's, again, no natural lightning bolts. So with enhancement, this is what we get. It gets real interesting. What do you think A.1 is? That's absolutely some kind of object with holes in it or something. Looks pretty creepy. And then look at when it starts to flash. Those dark pockets become the light sources. And look at this burn spot. That's a lamp. That's not a lightning bolt. So we are talking craft up there is sending out this illumination. And look at this. So it's a hot spot down here. Something kind of starting up here. And then in C, it's just the hot spot at the top. It transfers from down here to down here. That's no lightning bolt. That's no lightning of any kind. So is this a ship? Is this just some kind of object that creates light in the sky? I don't know, but see what you think. I know it's not natural, though. Okay, here's one more example of that lightning storm of weird stuff going on. So again, A is before anything flashed. B, we start to see a ring-like shape when it's supposedly lightning, but again, that's no lightning. And then here it is with enhancement. So again, we got this kind of object. Is that just something that like flashes out these light signals? Or is it a, cloaking craft of some kind? Anyway, again, very, very strange. And that is no lightning of any kind that I have ever known on this planet my entire life. All right, so this is the photo of the day and the close of the show. Thank you for checking some things out here a while. This is a checkout screen for, actually, what did I get? I got food. I got an empanada, which is just a turnover, and it was like a chicken turnover. But I'm noting this because it says, thank you for visiting. Please come again. And the total of the amount was $2.66 US. Now, the reason why I'm putting this here is I'm just kind of laughing because the number 66 has been plaguing me for some time in the last months and even year. It just keeps showing up. Now, I have commented elsewhere, and I think in maybe some of my previous shows, about numerology and what 66 means. So when I first see that, I laugh because if you know Star Wars, and I'm a Star Wars fan, Order 66, unfortunately, was the order the evil ones gave to kill all the Jedi, which I'm not happy about. So anyway, I'm just laughing that I seem to be seeing 66 everywhere. However, if you look at numerology, there are some very positive aspects of numbers. Of course, also very negative designs and evil designs that can be used for them. However, I only look at the positive aspects of them, and that is something that's also can be known as angel numbers. If you look at a really wonderful Australian blog site, I've referred to it before in other shows. It's called Angel Numbers Sacred Scribes, or Joanne Sacred Scribes. It's with Joanne Walmsley, I think her name is, and she goes through and lists all the positive aspects of repeating numbers, really any number combination. It could be 657, 219, 266, or just 66, or even 666. There are positive aspects to every number. So I know everyone automatically jumps to, oh, it's a sign of the beast or the devil when you see 666. If you look at the positive aspects and flip that around, you will see that actually, no, there's also a very divine and positive meaning behind all of that. And it's just been hijacked by the evil ones. So like I've said in previous shows elsewhere, I'm reclaiming any of our numbers that have been flipped to be made or seeming negative to ramping up the power of the positive in them. So anyway, that's a long roundabout way to say check out some of these repeating numbers and number sequences over at Joanne's Sacred Scribes. You can just actually type that in on an internet search and find whatever you want, and type in whatever number you're interested in. You might be seeing 111 or 1111 or 222 or any weird combination of numbers repeatedly, and just type in whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the same number sequential, and see what you can find out there. All right, well, again, thanks for being here. I wish you an amazing, gorgeous now and beautiful week ahead. Tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.